Hello and welcome to Future Stars of Cricket, episode number 3. We're back with myself, Azjad from Cricket for Us 2.0, and Faizan from Quality Shot to discuss another future star of cricket. Who are we going to talk about today?
We're going to be talking about Pathum Nissanka, a really exciting young batsman, broken onto the scene in all three formats, and he's done better in some formats than others. But I think it's safe to say that Sri Lankan fans and fans around the world are definitely starting to get to know his name, and he's an exciting player to come out of Sri Lanka so far, and looking forward to seeing how his career progresses.
100%. One thing I've been very impressed by, and in my research of his very limited international career, I realized that he's had some absolute stellar knocks. One to mention, he got a century on Test debut against West Indies, which was just something that you don't. I think there's been about 112 instances in over 200 years of cricket or something like that. So that in one case is outstanding. But also, he's only the fourth Sri Lankan Test batsman to be able to achieve a century in his first Test match. Now, the way he played that match, the way he controlled his aggression is something that I've been really impressed by, especially against a team like West Indies. He's been able to tackle the bowlers in the pacers and the spinners and just anyone who came at him. He was able to tackle that quite well. And then there was this second innings against Australia. It was a T20 game where he came out and because he's a kind of slow player, as people put him, a lot of the slow players around the world nowadays open up in T20 cricket. So what Sri Lanka did was promote him to the top of the order. And it was like a fish to water. The way he kind of built that innings, yes, he had a slow strike rate at the start, but then he was able to smash people like Mitchell Starc, Pat Cummins, absolutely everywhere. There's this 6 he hit over deep mid-wicket that I've seen like 5 different versions of that same shot on YouTube, which it was absolutely sensational. I'll try and see if I can put a link or something in the description below, but he is a very, very talented batsman who, as you mentioned clearly, that he doesn't have a great List A or ODI record to speak of. But what he's done in the red ball space, he's scored almost 4,000 first-class runs in 40 first-class games. Now, that is something that is almost unheard of. Again, there's a lot of great players, but from a Sri Lankan standpoint, you don't see young players. He's only 23 right now. He's only 23. He was captain of his domestic team at the age of 19, 20 years old. So he's done some great things from a young Sri Lankan perspective. And I had to pick someone like Pathum Nissanka because everyone else, we see some sort of potential in them, but he's actually shown his potential and realized it a lot better than a lot of other players from especially from Sri Lanka. So any thoughts on Nissanka and his career so far?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a really good, I think, point to make about that knock against Australia. The fact that in the end, he hit that knock against the eventual champions in Australia as well. A T20 World Cup in chase, which was so crucial at the time. And he batted superbly, I thought, not just in that match, but he was a standout in the T20 World Cup. And it definitely was a step in the right direction for him. I don't think he was seen as someone who could, as you said, kind of bat at a potentially quicker rate than what I guess his strike rate suggests at 116, 117, which is not great in a T20 format. So he wants to get that up there, and I'm sure he will. But yeah, as you said, like his first class record is incredible. I mean, average of over 63, and yes, in the white ball formats domestically, it's the late 20s, so doesn't set the world alight, but I think he is one of those players who, and I like to mention it a lot, I think he is an all-format player. I think his shape, his defensive ability is very good. He's got a very good setup. And I think once you've got a good defensive setup, you need to then be able to play off that for defensive. And I think he does have, for me anyway, all the shots in the book, or most of the shots in the book that you need to be successful in all three formats. And that's why we've seen him be successful in Test match cricket. Played only 7 matches, fine, but averages 45, which is really impressive. And I think the same will come, and he will come good in the ODI and T20 formats longer term. I think he's a really exciting player for them to potentially, not just himself, but of course there's some others in there like Rajapaksa as well, is one of the players to kind of start building their team around. And I think he will be one they definitely will want to. But he isn't the type of player who's a power hitter. He is a more classical type of player, but I guess in a way, the way that he's quite innovative as well in his T20 game at times, a little bit like Rizwan is, kind of with a laps and kind of paddles. And he knows, look, I'm not this 6'5" giant, right, who's just going to come in and smash the ball to all corners of the pitch, right? That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to be more, I guess, innovative in the way that I bat. And I think that's exactly what he's done. He knows his strengths, and I'm sure he will continue to hone his game. So, yeah, just a little bit from me on that. And, yeah, the century on debut was really impressive against West Indies. And as soon as he hit that century, when you hit a century on debut, especially in Test match cricket, it's something special. And I think, I don't know exactly what the kind of conversion rate is for those people in terms of how well they've done after. Of course, there's that really infamous 300 from that Indian batsman, Karan Nair, obviously against England, wasn't it? And obviously he didn't really go on to do too much. But apart from him, who I think is an anomaly, most players then go on to have really successful careers, especially Test careers. So a really, really good start. And yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic player to discuss, and I'm glad we chose him because I don't think he's getting as much exposure as maybe some of the more glittery and glamorous players that maybe, for example, playing more franchise cricket, especially at the moment as well around the world. But he's one that we should definitely be saying, you know what, this guy is quality, and he is, and I can't wait to see more of him.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I'm glad that, the way he bats, as you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned the way he bats because obviously you're a batsman, so you can talk deeper within that. But the paddles and the fact that he moves around the crease, it's not just, I'm just going to be very classical. He uses the entirety of the ground to try and score. And we talk about that first century. We talk about the half century as well in ODI cricket not too long ago. He's only been around a year and a bit in international cricket. And apart from maybe Chatal Asalanka, in terms of batters, you mentioned Rajapaksa as well, but apart from maybe Asalanka as a batter and I guess Chimera, I think Nissanka is up there, definitely. It's like, with West Indies over the last year or so, we thought about Nkrumah Bonner, we've thought about Craig Brathwaite, we thought about Kyle Mayers to an extent, and he's in that type of category where he's burst on the scene post-pandemic, and he's set his nation on fire in the sense that he's been just very, very crucial to Sri Lanka in, even if they don't win, but they provide some sort of fight, and it's really nice. It's really nice to see, be it in T20s or in Test ODIs, as you mentioned. He'll get there. He's literally just started his career. That's the thing. He's literally just started. So I'm looking forward to him progressing through the coming years, and hopefully we can talk about him again when he is a future star of Sri Lanka. I just want to ask you a question before we wrap up. If you had to pick one moment, from what you've seen of his career so far, one aspect of the way he goes about his innings, the way he carries himself or anything, what would that one aspect be? I know you talked about his defense and his paddles and stuff, but what would be that one thing that resonates with Pathum Nissanka for you?
I think it's very easy to talk about his technique, and I think it's a really good point you made about him using the crease as well. Not a lot of batsmen at that age use the crease as effectively as he does. But I think for me, is two things, and it's not necessarily just to do with his technique and skill set. It's more to do with the mental side. And I think mentally, he seems very, very strong, especially at someone of his age, and he definitely steps up to the plate. I think you have to be confident in your own game and very mentally tough to, one, score a century on Test debut. The nerves would have been incredible in that moment. And also, for example, and we will kind of highlight that Australian knock, that was a crucial knock. So he tends to be one of those batsmen, from what we've seen in the big moments anyway, recently especially, he stepped up to the plate and he's really made the difference. So he's someone I think that Sri Lanka will lean on to get runs in big moments, and that's what's been most impressive to me. Yes, it's very easy to kind of score. Well, we see lots of players score bulk runs, but at times when it really comes down to the crunch moments, they're not able to, I guess, reproduce that type of form. and it can get to them, the pressure, the expectation, the responsibility. I think he's someone who from what I can see, I don't know him personally, but from what I can see, he tends to relish it. So I think he knows that he's one of the lead batsmen. He's one of the guys who needs to lead from the front. And at such a young age, it's fantastic to see that. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing him come up with some more fantastic knocks. But that, for me, is what sets him apart at the moment. Especially in a team that is, let's be honest, is adapting. It's in a transitional stage, Sri Lanka. They've got some very exciting young talent, but that's what it is exciting young talent. They're not, they are a lot of future young stars, and I'm sure we'll have more of them on here on this podcast or segment. But I think, they don't have many people to kind of lean on the kind of already consolidated stars like in India, for example, or New Zealand or in England, the white ball side of things, or Australia. So, really, really impressive. And I guess in a way, I don't think they probably lean on him as much as we lean on Babar Azam as a Pakistan fan at the moment.
That's exactly the comparison I was going to make. Yeah. Because 4 or 5 years ago, when Babar Azam was up and coming, one format he was really good at, which was ODIs, but the others he was still lagging behind, and he eventually got there in all 3 formats. And that's who Nissanka reminds me of just a little bit. So I'm glad you made that comparison. And that's it. To be honest, I'm super excited for the future of his career, but also Sri Lankan cricket, because he can be that pillar, as you mentioned, Faizan, who will take them forward and maybe even be a potential future captain the way things are going with the country. But yeah, thank you, Faizan, as always. Really appreciate you coming on. For everyone watching, do check out episode 1 and episode 2. Episode 1 is on my channel. Episode 2 is on Quality Shot. Episode 3 is obviously this particular episode. But episode 4, I don't know who it's going to be yet. And Faizan hasn't told me, so I'm going to wait until we talk about that particular player. Yeah. But that will be probably next month, and we'll discuss him on Quality Shots. So please do subscribe to both channels and leave your comments in the comment section below to give us your thoughts about Pathum Nissanka, or if we've missed anyone, if we've gone for the wrong Sri Lankan player, also let us know in the comments below. Thank you very much. Yeah. And until next time, take care, guys.